This episode of the Ron Purtee Show is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/Ron Show. Over 150,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. So head over to audibletrial.com/Ron Show today.
This is the Ron Purtee Show.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. I have a very, very special guest. On the phone with me right now is the one, the only, the iconic Joe Bob Briggs. Thank you so much for being on the program.
I'm happy to be here, Ron.
I guess.
Am I talking to you from, are you calling me from Racine?
Yes.
I remember Racine.
Yes.
Okay.
I was.
What's the Fear Factor out there in Racine?
Yeah, they. I met you. You've been on the show before, but I've actually met you physically at Twisted Dreams.
At Milwaukee. At the Milwaukee Film Festival.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
That was good times. I was right front and center for that show. So I guess my first question is, because I know we're on limited time here, is that with everything going on in the world right now, are you done shooting this season?
Done shooting? No. No. I mean, we're. What do you mean by done shooting? No. We haven't been canceled. If that's what
No. I mean, are you done shooting the season? It's because I know a lot of places have a stay-at-home order, and you can't have more than a certain amount of people in a confined space type of thing.
Oh, I see what you mean. Well, I could get some people in trouble if I talk about that too much. So let me just say that the show is going on as usual. Nobody has been endangered. And we're presenting all the things we normally present on the show. We're just having to do it in a little bit different way, and that's all I'm going to say, because we have to bend some rules in order to do it. In order to deliver the last drive-in.
That's fine. That's fine. The mum's the word. There's a lot of new content that Shudder has added, and I know you've probably been shooting the season for a while now. Is there anything that has, I don't want you to give away anything, but are there things that have been added that we're going to see this season?
Things added to the show, or things added to the Shudder lineup?
To the Shudder lineup that we might see, because I know there's a bunch of stuff that just got added. So, there's so many things people can speculate, like they do every week.
Yeah, we're actually going to have two world premieres. One of them is a genuine world premiere. The other one, I think we might be showing the movie like 12 hours after it shows somewhere else, but it's basically a world premiere also. And so we have those. We have a little bit more recent stuff than we normally have, but generally it's the same mix that we always do. With the cult film stuff from the 80s. I would say we're heavier on the 70s this time than the 80s.
Oh boy.
Which I love. I love the 70s. Because the 70s were just like anything goes in the 70s. Nobody knew, people thought that movie theaters were going to go out of business entirely in the 70s. They were really suffering. And therefore, the decision makers in LA were just approving anything. It's like, you go to them with a weird idea, they give you the money for it. And then you also had a very vigorous indie film community, and by indie film I don't mean what we call indie films today. I mean the hustlers on Sunset Boulevard who were making movies for 50 cents,
right?
And those guys, the guys that are like below the level of Roger Corman. Roger Corman was doing blockbusters compared to what those guys were doing, and so you had a lot of really odd films, and we have one of those, one notorious one, on the very first week of the series. It's series starts on the 24th. By the way, we should mention that.
Oh yes.
Friday the 24th at 9 Eastern Time, 6 Pacific.
Yes.
And we do like people to hang with us for the live feed rather than watch it later. It's become a tradition, but we have a very special movie that night. A movie that the guy who owns the movie today says that it's the only movie he owns that he's kind of embarrassed to own.
Oh my! I mean, I have some embarrassing movies that I own, but I don't know if that's crazy.
So
that's wild.
Anyway, it's from the 70s. It's from the 70s, the wild and wacky 70s.
Oh, they were, that's, oh boy, horror in the 70s. I mean, your favorite horror film is straight out of the middle of the 70s, you know, so.
Well, that's right. Texas Chainsaw Massacre was 74. The Exorcist was 73 or 74, I think. So you did have, The Exorcist sort of started the era of big budget horror.
Right.
But at the same time, you had Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Halloween and movies like that sort of establishing the era of low budget horror. And then they sort of merge at the end of the 80s and into the 90s. And, they become indistinguishable. But you had those two movements going on simultaneously.
Yeah, it's just amazing how things change, and people are in the chat right now saying TCM for life, and I have to agree with them. Now, getting to Texas Chainsaw Massacre real quick, I know a lot of people didn't like Texas Chainsaw 3D, but I think if you take certain aspects of the movie out and you just focus on Dan Yeager's performance as Leatherface, he's the closest to Gunner that we've gotten, I think.
Yeah, oddly enough, I'm not the person to ask because the comparison of Jason Leatherface and Freddy and the other killers in the movies, I'm never watching the movies close enough together to make a reasonable comparison. So I don't know. I thought, of course, I'm a fan of the original. It still holds up after all these years, I think. The remakes and the sequels have been. Well, except for part 3, I don't like part 3.
Oh, that's on YouTube. Everybody can see your disdain for part 3.
Yeah, but everything else that's emerged from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre has been pretty good. There hasn't been any real turkeys in those movies, but they don't have the grit and the realism and the I don't know. It's just the dirty beauty of the original one, in my opinion. There's a way in which you can hurt a concept by having too much money, and so I'm not, I don't dislike any of the sequels or any of the remakes. I just except for part 3.
Well, no, I mean, and if the studio murdered that movie.
Actually, the creative people involved with it, have all told me it's not our fault. It's not our fault. And I believe them. But why did they shoot it in California against a backdrop of mountains? Let's start with that concept right there. And then it goes from there,
Yeah.
You see these snow-capped peaks in the background in a movie that's about Texas, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I think of when I think of Texas, is snowy mountain peaks.
Yeah. So, but But for the most part, the big budget chainsaw movies have been good.
Yeah, no, I know. Have you recovered from your from the stroke that Darcy gave you when she said she liked the remake better?
No, she still says she likes the remake better. She says it every chance she gets.
Oh. I think she's watching right now, so she's getting a wag of the finger for that one. But yeah, no, that was the, and I'm very pleased to tell this story. Is that was the first horror film I ever saw. It's 7 years old, and my dad had a VHS tape in the machine, so I pushed into the machine. I didn't know what it was, and it was the sequence where Leatherface is putting Pam on the hook. That's the first thing I saw. No context. Ooh. Yeah. So, but it didn't freak me out. It just kind of like was staring at it, like I was in awe of whatever the hell this was. And yeah.
probably because you didn't see the build up for it, but the that was the number one walker scene when the movie first came out. If people were going to walk out of the theater, that's where they walked.
Oh, geez.
Pam on a meat hook, yeah.
That'll probably do it.
It was actually one of the simplest effects in the whole movie. It was just they just strung her up with pantyhose. Were holding her under her armpits. Were holding her up, and it's a simple reverse shot. You think you see it, you don't really see anything.
Right? Yeah, it's crazy. Now I gotta ask this question because I follow you and Darcy both on Twitter, and she's been talking a lot about having monster vision. That's all she really says. Now, is there any kind of yeah? Is there any kind of expected release for the host segments or?
I have all the footage for all the shows I've done. Mm-hmm. It's 20,000. If you count the movie, as part of the time of the show, it's like 20,000 hours of TV. Now the problem is, when I do a show, I always tailor my remarks to fit the movie. Everything I say arises from the movie. Not everything I say, but most of what I say arises from the movie. Even if I'm going off topic, I'm going off topic based on something that happened in the movie.
Right.
And so I have always thought, I don't see how you can watch that stuff unless you have the movie. And I obviously can't go and get the rights to all of those movies.
Right.
That would be impossible. I can't even get the rights to, we can't even get the rights to the movies we want to show on Shudder. So it's hard to get movie rights. So I've never really done anything with them. But Darcy kept saying, "Oh, you should get all this stuff together and edit it and release it and somehow let people see it." And I'm like, "Well, I don't think it's going to make sense because they can't see the movie. I can't steal the movie and put it with it,
Right.
And she insists that no, people will watch it, and some people on YouTube actually do watch the old interstitial segments from
I'm guilty of that. I watch it all the time.
Monster Vision.
Yep.
From Monster Vision and from Drive-In Theater. Drive-In Theater would make more sense because it was just an intro and an outro.
Right.
There's no interruption of the movie. So anyway, she said, let me consolidate. The tapes were kind of all spread out, and so and the person that was the caretaker, there were two caretakers of the tapes, and they both wanted to get rid of them, and so we just put them all in one big storage unit in Santa Monica, where Darcy lives, and where Darcy said that she has high-ranking, talented friends who can digitize the stuff and get it in shape. And so we're trying to come up with a plan to somehow get the stuff all together and see what we can do with it. I'm still skeptical. She's not skeptical.
Well, I'm going to have to agree with her on this. I'm going to have to agree with her on this because everybody in the chat right now is talking about how they watch just the host segment clips in between, segments of the movie. They watch them all the time. I'm guilty of it. I mean, I host a show. I have to try and steal my swagger from somebody. And so I mean, and like Michael Vyers here is saying, go ahead.
You'll like this then. One of the things that happens is that when we post our marathons and our triple features and our segments, eventually Shudder loses the license rights to the film, and so it cycles off the service. And so if you look at the original marathon, it's not 13 movies anymore. I don't know how many it is. I mean, it may be just 6 or something. And so what we're going to do is we are going to put up the segments that we own for those movies that have disappeared off of the service.
Oh, nice.
Now, when are we going to put them up? I'm not sure, but my director has gone through all of them. He has put time codes on them so that if you want to get the DVD of the movie or stream it, you can pause it at the time code and watch the segment. I don't know if anybody will do that.
Someone in the chat just said that they would. Multiple people said that if they had the time code, they would do it. So you are...
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we are putting the time code. Austin Jennings, the director of The Last Drive-In.
Fantastic director, by the way.
Went through all... He's a genius. And he went through all of the stuff, and he figured out where the time code is, and so we're going to post those at some point. I hope some point soon, probably shortly after the season. We're preoccupied with the season right now. The season runs 10 weeks and starts right here directly April 24th in the middle of a pandemic. So we're preoccupied.
Your numbers are going to go through the roof. Your numbers will go through the roof.
You think so?
Well, I mean,
because there's a captive audience.
My state's shelter in home or safer at home or whatever the hell they want to call it actually ends that day. But I'm not going outside. I've seen how people are. I've seen the crazies, and I'm not talking about the remake. I'm talking about the original Romero one. I know how people can get, but but no. Michael Vyers is in the chat saying that if he had the time code, no problem. Everyone else is saying. I mean, Rory Coyle from the UK is saying that he runs into a lot of issues with Shudder because movies will not be there, and it's kind of a giant mess.
Yeah,
I suppose.
I mean, in defense of Shudder. It's really hard to keep the rights to these movies for any length of time. Now, there are exceptions. There's some movies that we've used on my show that nobody else wants, but and so we have long license periods on those. But Sam Zimmerman is the curator for Shudder. Knows everything, knows everybody who represents any kind of movie anywhere in the world, and he makes these deals, and they are complicated as they can be.
Right.
And so we try to keep the rights as long as we can, but it's just not feasible to have perpetual rights on these movies. The other problem we run into is there's some movies we can't show because the contract for the movie says you can't interrupt the movie. They specifically say you cannot put anything in the middle of the movie, and so
they saw you coming.
Yeah, no. I think they have written this legal language so that you don't use commercials.
Okay.
And I think that's what it's intended for. I don't think it's intended for me, but nevertheless, it affects me because the legal language is in there. So
I have a question here from the audience. Tommy Gregg wants to know if you have any explanation for the huge resurgence in your fan base. He says we all understand it, but he wants to know what your take is on it.
Explanation for resurgence in my fan base.
Yes, that's a direct quote.
I would say it's oh boy. I can't. I don't. I'm not. I know. I have no explanation for it. There's no there's no way to define my fan base because my shows go over such a long period of time and so many different eras, and so many different types of people. I mean, I'm always amazed when I do a show and I mean, I'm delighted when I do a show and somebody will come up to the table and they'll say, you know, they just discovered my show, you know, last month. They think I'm new. That's great. That's great. I love that, you know. But then on the other hand, I have people who say, you know, I was watching you 30 years ago, you know, and they remember specific shows that I don't even remember, you know, because we've done this many shows. You know, there's a lot of stuff that I've programmed that, you know, I'm sure I was into it at the time, but I just like, I don't have a specific memory of it. I would have to look it up. Sometimes people will post old excerpts from Monster Vision or the original drive-in theater,
right?
And I'll watch it like I'm watching another person. It's like it's not me. I don't. And sometimes I'll be entertained, and sometimes I won't. Sometimes I'll think, "Oh my God, I can't believe that's the worst joke I've ever heard in my life."
Oh, I've done the same thing. Trust me. Yeah, it's.
And then other times I'll say, "Wow, did I say that? That was pretty good." So anyway, it's strange after a certain number of years, you know. And you have to remember, you know, when I started in TV, it was not preserved. You just put it out there, and it was there for that one night, and it went away. And so you didn't expect to be looking at it 30 years later.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's I know one of the coolest things I ever saw was when you kind of gone on this whirlwind tour of the United States, and you went and you met up with a local hero around here, Rich Coase, and there was pictures of you on the set of Svengoolie, and
oh yeah,
that was some of the coolest stuff.
Oh, that was just last summer, yeah, when I went to the Music Box Theater. I did my show at the Music Box Theater, and Svengoolie's manager, I guess he was going to go to the show or something, and he said, "Hey, you want to come by and meet the man?" And I said, "Well, of course I do." And then Darcy was in town for it too, and she said, "Oh, you're taking me." So we both went over to Svengoolie's set, which I won't reveal any secrets about his set. And we traded some stories, and it was great. Now, we're supposed to do a show together at the Music Box later this year. Now, I don't know if that'll be rescheduled or whether that's still on, but I'm really, really looking forward to doing a show with Svengoolie.
You've just got me to leave Wisconsin and go to Chicago. And I don't like Chicago. I'm saying it right here, folks, if you're watching. I don't like Chicago. It's a big mess, especially if you want to go to there's a certain venue that's at the Metro. If you want to go to the Metro to see a show and the Cubs are playing a night game, you better leave 2 days earlier because you're never going to find a parking spot. Let's just say that. It's horrible.
Well, you're going to feel the same way about the Music Box because it's right there by Wrigley Field. So,
damn.
But
I'll leave right now.
But yeah, I hope that happens because I you know, my dream show. I want to get Svengoolie and Elvira on the same show together. I would like to do that.
Oh, Jesus!
You know, let's see if I can make that happen.
See, and that's what I love about Svengoolie is because in a way he's like you because he gives history on the movie and talks about it that way. He doesn't turn the movie into a joke. You know what I mean? And that's what I like about. Yeah,
he likes the movies. Yeah,
yeah.
He's under a lot of. I mean, I have a lot of respect for the technical problems he has because he has to do his show in a 2-hour block with commercial breaks on movies that are, that they have to edit them and they have to come in right on time and everything. It's much harder than what I do. So he does a great job with that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Now I got a couple of weird questions for you. You've, like I said, you've been across this great country of ours. Are you more of a Cracker Barrel guy or a Waffle House guy?
You haven't been paying attention. You have not been paying attention. I think I've been at like 30 Cracker Barrels this year.
Well, I mean, Waffle House is kind of.
I found Cracker Barrels I found a Cracker Barrel in Providence, Rhode Island. So
we have one in Wisconsin. Yeah, we have one in. I've been to it. Well, I mean, Waffle House is just kind of in the southern states, isn't it? It's not really like an all over the country type thing.
No, I'll do Waffle House, but there's no comparison between. I mean, Cracker Barrel closes at 10 o'clock, so you go to a Waffle House at 2 in the morning. so you need both.
This is true.
Cracker Barrel is for the daytime. Waffle House is for the middle of the night.
When you want to see people get drunk and beat each other up, basically.
Yeah, I mean, in some of those southern states, you still go into a cloud of smoke when you walk into that Waffle House at 2 in the morning.
Well, I mean, people have to vape somewhere. Vape. Well, yeah. So, what's your favorite dish at Cracker Barrel then? Do you have one, or is there just too much?
Oh man, I just eat the whole left side of the menu. I mean, I like the country fried steak. I like all the sides that they have. I like sometimes I'll get breakfast even if it's 7 o'clock at night. I like their food. I like their sugar cured ham.
Oh yeah.
You got to go get you got to go get a heart surgery immediately after you eat it, but
yeah, very true.
Still eat it.
Yeah. No, I remember I took a woman on a first date there, and there wasn't a second date, but that's probably her. That's her issue. That's not my issue. But next time you're in Wisconsin, I gotta say, I'm gonna have to take you to George Webb's. George Webb's is kind of like our Waffle House. There's a bunch of them in Wisconsin, and we have the one Cracker Barrel in Kenosha, but it's kind of way out there, and you don't want to go. George Webb's is all over the place, and if you're really drunk, you eat there, and you're sober by the time you leave because of all the grease and everything. So, yeah, definitely going to have to be a thing if we ever are allowed to leave the house again. But all right. Yeah, so
and then you can drive me over to Plainfield, and we can look at the Ed Gein kill site.
Yeah, they are the people who live in that town are very weird. I know somebody who tried doing a documentary up there, and I mean, granted, they went about it the complete wrong way. They just started putting cameras in people's faces, but they do not like to talk about Ed Gein up there.
Well, I don't really think there's anything to see because his house burned down.
Yeah, I think it's just a lot now.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything to see, but it's just that's what. Sorry, but in my world, that's what Wisconsin is known for.
Well, we have Dahmer too. I mean, that's
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, you got two guys.
Yeah, both of them had love issues. So it's like and I love telling people that that Dahmer and Gein remind me of Native Americans because they use all of their victims, much like Native Americans would use all of their kill. So that's people don't like that kind of humor around here, but it is what it is. So now you said that there's on the live feed at the end of the show that there's going on the first week there's going to be something. Is there going to be something every week?
What do you mean something?
Well, you said that there's another movie after the show is over on the first week. That
no. Each week is a double feature.
Right.
The first week we have two very special guests. In fact, one of the guests we're going to announce next week. So it's just the first week is is going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. And so I was just pointing out that classic 70s So Bad It's Good film,
right,
is in the first week. It's the second feature in the first week.
Well, now I can. Now this, you're just gonna, you're just gonna start speculation online because everyone's gonna be like, "What do you think it's gonna be?"
Superstar. It has a superstar guest associated with it. So.
Oh boy.
So I guess you would not. No one's going to guess this guest.
Oh boy. Oh boy. All right, everybody, put your little speculation hats on because it's bound to happen at some point. People are gonna blow up and all, yeah. So I noticed something about Darcy. She's great. She's amazing. She seems to be the most proactive male girl that you've had.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, she's
Tell me about
yeah.
it.
It's
she's all over me all the time about things I'm doing wrong. Yeah, no, she's totally proactive. She sort of speaks for the fan community, and gets very upset if she feels like the fans are being treated badly in things like programming and choices that we make. Which is a good thing. It's a very good thing.
Yeah, I know, because there's the big debate about Halloween 3, but we're not going to get into that. I will say, though, when I met you up in Milwaukee, I was going to wear my Silver Shamrock shirt, but I changed my mind at the last minute. So,
listen, I've about 50 people have done that.
I'm not special. Oh,
no, they do that all the time. The last show I did before the lockdown was in Huntington, Long Island, and there were several Halloween 3 cheerleaders at that event.
Yeah, and everyone's in the chat. Oh, Halloween 3 rules, and everybody is speculating already on the film that you're talking about. They're saying it's Death Race 2000. So. I don't.
Well, they could be right. They could be wrong. I'm not gonna. We never reveal the titles before.
That's a good. That's a good thing. And Paul Brooks wants to know if Darcy's going to be able to stay out of Twitter jail this season.
I doubt it. I don't know why Twitter has it in for Darcy, but she's kind of shadow banned. It's like hard to search for her on Twitter, and then inevitably. About halfway through any episode of the show, we'll be trending. Sometimes we'll be trending internationally, but she'll get banned. She'll get her account cut off, and I'm not sure. I think it's just she's just such a prolific tweeter. But what she did is she set up a backup account this time. Okay. So. If she gets kicked off, if she gets put in Twitter jail, she can go to this backup account and keep going until they release her back into the wild.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I know you're busy and you got a lot of other people to talk to today. So real quick, everybody tune in to Shudder on April 24th, my favorite, Friday, April 24th, my favorite horror movie at 9 p.m. Eastern to watch the season premiere of The Last Drive-In with the amazing, wonderful Joe Bob Briggs and the fantastic, splendid, I can't think of any more adjectives, Darcy the Mail Girl. It's been a pleasure to have you on. I'd love to have you on again sometime.
Okay, thank you, Ron.
Have a good one.
Okay.
Bye.
Are you a horror fan? Do you like wearing your fandom on your shirt and showing the entire world? Then head over to frightrags.com and get all sorts of cool memorabilia and t-shirts to show the world that you are a true horror fan, from enamel pins to collectible cards, socks, and t-shirts with your favorite horror icons on them. Head over to frightrags.com and when checking out, use promo code PURTEE10, that's P as in Peter, URTEE10, and save 10% on your order today.
All right, and we're back, and I want to thank Joe Bob for being on the program, and I think Darcy was on Twitter while we were doing this, live tweeting it. So Darcy, if you're still watching, you're awesome. I thank you all so much. You're all amazing. I love you all, and I will see you next time.
Guests of the Ron Purtee Show, stay in their homes. I mean, come on, really? What were you expecting?